Hello everyone, my name's Wayne Riley. As you can see behind me, I live in a country area in a beautiful part of Australia. I was born in 1955 and I'm 70-year-old. I've been married to my beautiful Susie for 33 years and God willing, quite a number of more years after that. We've raised our 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls that all contribute to the future of Australia. I'm putting this video together to highlight what I've experienced as an Australian over those at least 50, 60 years of that. I'm appealing to Australians not to vote for the major parties because they've let us down. They've sold us out. And we like to call them idiots, we like to call them hopeless and useless, but the reality of it is they're very intelligent people that have been paid to follow an international agenda. They're puppets to the corporate narrative that has kept Australia broke. We've pandered to all sorts of countries like China, Japan, America, England, Europe, you name it. Our government is simply puppets and they're pulling all the strings. All of these international companies, all of these different countries themselves dictate Australia's future. It's about time we stop doing that. 30 years ago, before Facebook, before all sorts of other opportunities that raised today, I spoke to a federal politician about how people were struggling financially. And he said to me he had to watch what he spends on political income. He said, well, mate, you've got to tell me what the problem is and then you've got to give me the answer. And I said to him, well, you've got to stop taxing us. You've got to stop dreaming up new taxes every time you guys want more money. And he said, well, what's the alternative? And I said, well, stop giving our resources away. I said, you've been doing it for 80 or 100 years, giving them away. And he sort of laughed and said, oh, well, we can't charge too much. If you want to learn a bit more about that, check out Punters Politics. There's a lot of really good people out there trying to awaken Australians to politics. Politics matters. Whether we like it or not, it matters because it dictates our future. We've all got to take a more serious interest in it. And we've got to stop voting for the major parties. Why? The Liberal Nationals brought in globalisation, which decimated our farming and our manufacturing by allowing cheap imports into this country. We also looking at the Labor government, for goodness gracious sake, mass immigration by people who won't assimilate. They are destroying the fabric of our Australian culture, which I am extremely proud of, that we are made up of a lot of different ethnic groups, if that's the right word, ethnic persuasions. That's what makes Australia so colourful and so beautiful. But they've assimilated. They're part of the Aussie way of life. And that's why they came here. And for the best part, they left their fights, their arguments, their wars behind. That's not the case today. Bondi should never, ever happen. It is the most terrible tragedy that Australia's ever seen on our shores. Albanese would not even listen to his security experts. What does that tell you? Now, part of this video is to appeal to the South Australian people. Now, it's probably too late for this state election, but hopefully federally and in the future. I don't want you to go down the same mistake that Victoria did. Victoria had one of the most corrupt and disgusting premiers in Australia's history, and then they got voted back in. And I had a hard, long look at that, and the reason is unions. Unions are just an appendage of the Labor government, and they have been for over 50 years that I'm aware of. When I was 20, I didn't have a lot of interest in politics, and you weren't even allowed to talk about it. The union just said vote Labor. That's got to stop. Now, wherever you work, whatever union you're under, you've got to start to make your own decisions. Now, whether you're police, nurses, in the mining industry, wherever it is, in the public service, you've got to start to make a conscientious decision on who you vote for. And don't get me started on the Greens. Net zero, they're getting funding as well to push that agenda. Why? Because of international corporate interests at the detriment to all Australians. Now, I'm not against solar, and I'm not against alternatives, and we can do a lot better. But I'm an electrician and an engineer, and I'll tell you straight up, with the demands of power, alternate power just doesn't cut it. Now look at the current fuel situation. We've had oil capped in this country for many, many years, but we've been dictated to by international interests. We shouldn't be in debt. We are the luckiest country in the world. We've got one of the biggest continents, and we've got just about every resource the world wants. We can grow virtually anything that the world needs to eat, and we can seriously manufacture anything that the world may require. Now to the young people, just a quick message. When I came out of school, we didn't have HECS fees. If you could afford to go to uni, you went to uni. And of course, if you lived close to the uni, it was a lot easier, or you might have to try and organise, working and whatever might just get you through, but you didn't finish with a debt at the end of your uni course. And guess what? We didn't even have GST. The Liberals brought that in, and Labor said, oh no, we'll cut that out. Of course they didn't. GST alone in 2023-2024 made $84 billion. Get your head around that. If that money had been spent on military assets in this country alone, over the years that it's been here, we would be, without a doubt, the most protected nation in the world. And imagine if that money was spent building jets or aircraft and ships and drones and whatever other technology we saw as relevant in this country. That amount of money injected into our manufacturing, injected into jobs, would have bolstered Australia's economic future enormously. We should not be in debt. We shouldn't be in trillions of dollars of debt. It's being dictated by the money people internationally. I'm appealing to every Australian, stop listening to the unions. Stop doing donkey votes. Think about what you're doing and make a conscientious, patriotic vote that can change the future of Australia. That's what this video is about. And if it offended some, well, so be it. I want to see Australia great again. I want to see us honour God again and learn to stand and support one another. Look, I'm almost in tears when I hear about the waiting lists in our hospitals and the people that can't afford private health care. Good friends of mine that were struggling to get out of a chair, that could hardly walk. That's not the Australia I want. And I don't believe it's Australia that you want. We are the luckiest country in the world. And we should not be in debt. We should have the best medical systems, the best military, the opportunity to build homes, have cheap power, cheap fuel, cheap education. We should be an example to the rest of the world. Let's make Australia great again. Thank you for listening.